So 2024. It was one of the years of all time, but pretty solid year for games. Which is why in this video, we're going to be going over my favorite games of the year. Really, every game that I've played this year that's come out this year. We're talking full game releases. I'm not talking no Shadow of the Erdtree. Amazing. Amazing, by the way. Gotta clarify that. I enjoyed it a lot. But it's a DLC, not a full game release. Final Shape for Destiny 2. Loved it. Absolutely adored it. DLC, not full game experience. With that being said, though, I didn't play every game released this year. There were a couple that I either missed, didn't play enough of, or just didn't work out for me that well. But without any further ado, let's jump into this. I'm going to be ranking these worst to best, so my number one is my personal game of the year. Let's get it going. First up, we have The Mid.
Mid!
Okay, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't really care for Persona 3 Reload. I liked Persona 5. I loved Persona 4. I thought Shin Megami Tensei 5 was the best game of 2021. I like Atlas games. I just didn't like this one all that much. It just took too long to get going, man. I mean, I gave it a good amount of time. I gave it more time than what it took to beat some of the games on this list, but it just couldn't grab and keep my attention. It also doesn't help that so much of the early game is just completely dominated by dialogue and cutscenes whenever you really just want to play the game and enjoy the actual combat that the game has to offer. There's a cutscene. All right, yeah, awesome. Cool, great, yeah, it does. I have eyes, I can see it. I haven't seen combat in this game for hours. I really didn't enjoy exploring Tartarus. I really didn't enjoy the story in the beginning. Again, like I said, I think it took too long to get going. It felt really aimless at certain points. Just ain't for me, man. It has some really great redeeming aspects that I think speak for itself. Combat's great, the presentation's great, the soundtrack's great, but the story, the main thing that I look for in an Atlas game, I mean, 20 hours into Persona 4, 20 hours into Persona 5, I was hooked. And I just couldn't do it this time around. I'm sure it gets there. I'm sure it gets great. But personally, I feel like 20 hours is enough time for your story to get good enough for me to want to continue playing it.
It insists upon itself, Lois.
What?
It insists upon itself.
What does that even mean?
It takes forever getting in. You spend like 6.5 hours, and then, I can't even get through. I can't even finish the movie. I've never even seen the ending.
You've never seen the ending?
Up next, we have another Crab's Treasure. I don't really have too much to say about this game. I thought this game was just pretty middle of the road. It's a Souls-like, but it doesn't really do anything too crazy for the Souls-like genre. The bosses are pretty forgettable for the most part. The level design doesn't really do anything too special. There's a level or two that I think is really cool. The combat's nothing to write home about. I mean, this is a game that just feels very aggressively average. I wasn't really too big of a fan of the story. Halfway through, it kind of takes this tonal shift from being lighthearted and something that you can at least have fun with to something that it expects you to take deadly serious, and it just really doesn't work out that well for it. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this game, positive or negative. I mean, I put a decent amount of time into it. I put 15 hours. I played to the credits. I actually ended up finishing the game. I didn't do that for every game on this list, so I guess that says something about it. But yeah, it's, I think, the definition of a Xbox Game Pass type game. Something that you wouldn't really spend money for, but if you got the Xbox Game Pass subscription, it's definitely worth at least trying. Okay, it's about time we get into the good.
Nice.
Now, BlazBlue Entropy Effect. This is whenever the list gets a little interesting, because this is when the games get good, but I definitely have my fair share of problems with this game. First, I want to say I think the game does some things really well. I think the combat, especially for an action roguelike, is pretty good, considering there's a lot of characters and each of them feel pretty unique. It feels good on a mechanical level. The characters are pretty good to control, they're pretty varied, each of them has a different play style with a bunch of upgrades that make them feel genuinely unique to each other. And I feel like the trailer right here is kind of showing you in ways that I couldn't, because I didn't really sink a whole lot of playtime into this one, despite the mechanical depth that is being shown right here. It feels more like a fighting game than an action roguelike, which makes sense because BlazBlue is known for being a fighting game, but I'm not sure if the translation to action roguelike is done perfectly. It takes a lot of inspiration from Hades, such as the difficulty progression being customizable in the same way, and the skills working a lot like the skills that you would get in Hades. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Not every roguelike needs to be like Hades. You see it just way too often, and I just really don't like that. I really don't like it. It bothers me. I can't really tell you why it bothers me, but it just bothers me. I feel like the game is just kind of lacking design-wise in general. A lot of the enemies just kind of feel like placeholder assets. Hell, some of the bosses look like placeholder aspects themselves. Combine that with a lot of bosses that feel like there's a lot of visual clutter that make it hard to understand what's going on. It really just doesn't work too well. I had a decent amount of time playing the game with all the characters and ramping up the difficulty a little bit, but it got really repetitive just going through the same areas, fighting the same enemies, the same bosses. It just got repetitive, and that's the number one thing you don't want to see with a roguelike game. Dragon's Dogma 2. This one's actually really annoying because I couldn't capture my own gameplay footage, and that's pretty crucial to the criticisms that I have of this game. Now, hey, I like this game. I thought this game was great. The first impressions of this game were probably the best first impressions of any game on this list so far, but the more I played this game, the more of its quirks started to not really be all that good anymore. I thought the combat was really great. I played mostly as a warrior, so big ass weapons, doing big ass damage, really slow. It's really satisfying in this game. Being able to stagger big enemies and just send smaller enemies flying, oh, that's so great. I loved that. But back to first impressions, the vibes of this game, especially in the opening hours, are definitely something that cannot be understated. I was getting Baldur's Gate 3 vibes with the high fantasy setting. I was getting Final Fantasy 15 vibes with the fact that you're traveling with a party of 4. It had that strange road trip type feeling in the opening hours that is just kind of hard to describe, but I loved it in the opening hours. The more that the game went on, the more of the same dialogue I started to hear, and the pawn dialogue, the NPC dialogue in this game, after a while, it just gets annoying hearing the same voice lines over and over and over again, which really kind of put a downer on exploring the world because, again, you just hear the same dialogue. I enjoyed exploring the open world to a certain extent, but I can't lie, after hearing so much of the same dialogue, I was just kind of starting to speed through the game, and I didn't even end up finishing it at the end of the day. I got to somewhere in Act 2 in the desert, Batal, and I just wasn't really vibing with the story. The dialogue was getting to me. The gameplay was kind of losing its luster. I just kind of got tired of it. I can definitely say that the game is good though. I can definitely recommend it. I can at least say give it a try. If there's anything this game does well without an asterisk attached, it's the graphics. I think this game looks absolutely gorgeous. The character models are super detailed. The armor and weapons are super detailed. The shadows look great. I was able to play this on PC with ray tracing enabled. It's not the best optimized PC game on the market, but it looks so good, it can kind of get away with it to a certain extent. Folks, things are getting good. We are now in The Great.
Someone cooked here.
Now, before we get into this next game, I just got one question for you. One simple, very simple question. Do you have what it takes to give your life for liberty? Ah, yes, the golden child of 2024, Helldivers 2. No Game of the Year list is complete without it. No, but seriously, Helldivers is very, very good. I certainly have my problems with it, but oh my god, I had just an absolute blast playing this game this year. From the crazy, absolute insanity of some of the enemy encounters.
Oh, this got blown up.
Jesus!
I'm stuck. Holy shit!
For liberty! To just having a fun, good old time fucking around with the buds.
Those fucking eight.
If you just want dumb, simple, turn your brain off and watch the pretty colors fun, this is the game for you. That's not to say that this game is without flaw. Despite what the fan base might tell you, there's definitely some issues with this game. Some of those problems have been fixed, like, hey, the server problems, I've heard the servers are pretty consistent now. I don't think those are going to be a problem again. But bugs. Get out of the fucking thing! Oh my god, I'm stuck in first person aiming. I can't leave. Not talking about the enemy faction. Bugs have been a problem in this game since day 1. They've been a problem since day 2, 3, 4, 5. Hell, by the looks of things, they're still having problems with this. Combine that with a monetization system that looks like it would fit right in a free-to-play game. The bullshit that happened with Sony forcing you to link a PSN account, which hemorrhaged the player base. The abundant nerfs to players and buffs to enemies that artificially increase the difficulty of the game, and peer-to-peer connection in 2024 for an online game? Have you lost your mind? That practically makes playing with randoms impossible. Like I said, I had a lot of fun with this game. I had a lot of positives, a lot of negatives, just a very interesting experience all around. I put a decent amount of playtime into this game. It's been a while since I've played, since me and the friends that I played with kind of fell off of the game for a good while, and schedules changed, which sucks because this is a game that you really need at least 3 people to have a good time with. Otherwise, flat out, this game is just not going to be enjoyable. But I still recommend it if, for whatever reason, you haven't played it yet. It's definitely worth giving a try at the very least. Just make sure that you have some friends to play with first.
Dude, I'm sorry, bro. You knew I could come around and shoot us.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Jump in.
What the fuck?
Died by each other.
Yeah, fuck you, Zach.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Pokemon Card Guy, back with another episode of
Should I open these cards? Or should I not open these cards?
We got Twilight Masquerade. Let's see what we get.
Oh no, you shouldn't have opened those cards.
You know what? Fuck Pokemon. I hate Pokemon. I've never liked Pokemon. I'm never gonna like Pokemon. Pokemon fucking sucks. And who needs them anyways, because now we got Palworld. Okay, honestly, unironically, jokes aside, I absolutely adored Palworld. Yeah, you can boil it down to Pokemon with guns, but I think that's a pretty disingenuous representation of what this game actually is. It's a little bit of Pokemon, it's a little bit of base building, it's a little bit of survival, throw in some third-person shooting and some open-world exploration, and you got Palworld. It really has a lot more going on than it just being a Pokemon ripoff. But enough of that noise. What did I like and what did I dislike? One of my favorite things about this game was exploring the world and finding cool ways to explore it, like this. And no damage! Pretty sure that wasn't intentional, but we'll get to that in a moment. But going through the tech trees and unlocking new ways of transportation and new ways of interacting with your pals was just such a fun experience. And it was all paced out really well. Frankly, I thought the pacing in general was just really good. Ironically, for a game that's been called Pokemon with Guns, it takes a couple hours to get your first gun, and I thought that was really interesting. You kind of had to work for it, and it was a reward that was given to you after a little bit of hard work, and completely changes the way that you play the game. I loved the base building and how all of your pals interacted with what you put in your base and had their own unique jobs and roles to fulfill. I also love how they weren't just completely emotionless machines and you had to actually manage their stress and their food. I gotta be honest with you, man, I enjoyed the vast majority of my time with Palworld. I don't really have too much negative to say other than one really, really big, glaring negative.
That didn't help him out.
This game was buggy as fuck on launch day, and the problems persisted for a good 2 weeks. Yeah, most of the problems have been fixed by now, but at launch, this game, even by early access standards, was pretty bad. I've had pals not working even when there was stuff they could be doing. I've had alien abductions. I've had pals going into the sky. I've had pals coming from the sky. It's really just so many problems that I had at launch. Again, they got fixed, but that first week, 2 weeks, was really rough. Still probably better put together than the most recent Pokemon game, though. Hey, they fixed most of those issues in the time that I played, but it's been a while since I've played, so they probably fixed a lot more issues too, and added new content. Like I said, it's been a while since I've played, but when I did play, I played a whole hell of a lot of it. I had a fun time playing it, even with the issues of its launch. It's definitely in a better spot now, so I really can't recommend this highly enough. It's a great game that goes beyond just being a Pokemon clone. Also, please watch my highlights video I made earlier in the year. It's really good. I think you'll really like it. Okay, bye.
Where's Zach? You're fired.
Balatro is just something special. It is the best roguelike that I have played in years, and I simply just can't stop playing this thing.
It's simply too good.
I'm actually still playing it as I edit this video.
Hey, don't judge me.
It's genuinely addicting. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but the level of satisfaction that I get when I make a play like this, and it just works out, is just a feeling that I haven't gotten from any other game in a long ass time. The real meat and potatoes of this game are the jokers and how they interact with your run. It's so much fun to just experiment with each of them and see how they interact with each other. It's such a rewarding experience, and there's so many of them to actually play around with as well. So there's just so many combinations, not even getting into the fact that some of them can have enhancements of their own. There's a deceptive amount of meat on the bone with this game. Also, something worth bringing up, the sound design in this game is just fantastic. Everything sounds clicky and snappy in just the right way. It's an auditory delight. Just listen to this. It's as if it was scientifically constructed to be the most satisfying video game ever made. I've put about 28 hours into the game over the past 2 weeks of owning it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game. I really don't have much negative to say about it whatsoever. It's not perfect, but when it comes to criticisms, I really don't have much to say. It falls into some of the same pitfalls you'll see from other card games and other roguelikes, in the sense that luck isn't always on your side. But fuck it, game's good, 9 out of 10. And the best game of 2024. Honestly, I don't even know how to talk about this one. I don't think I have it in me to do this game justice. It is that jaw-droppingly fantastic. I loved the original Final Fantasy VII. It is one of my favorite games of all time. I loved the remake of Final Fantasy VII. It is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It continues that tradition. Seeing elements of the original game brought to new life with modern technology has just been an absolute treat to see, and Rebirth, I think, does it maybe even better than Remake. Frankly, I think Rebirth does practically everything better than Remake. The combat is better, the graphics are better, the characters feel more fleshed out, the environments feel more fleshed out, and they feel bigger and more detailed. Oh my god, and don't even get me started on this damn soundtrack. You know what? No, you got me started. Just chills, man. Soundtrack of the year, game of the year, any award that this can get, just freaking give it to them. I took a day off work just to play this game and have an early weekend with it, and I think I was at 30 hours by the end of the weekend. Took me about 70 hours total to beat the game, and I definitely took my time. I tried to get all the collectibles, I tried to do all the side quests to a certain extent. I put a fair amount of time into this game, and I enjoyed every second of it. This game was an absolutely unforgettable experience. I hold this game series, and this game in particular, in a very special place in my heart, and nothing else could have been Game of the Year for me. I mean, there's really no competition. It's this game and everything else on the list for me. Well, that was the video. I hope you liked it. I put a lot of work into it. A lot of effort went into it. I did a TikTok post last year of my favorite games of last year, and it was just a slideshow. So I wanted to put considerably more effort into my list this year. Really for no reason in particular. I just wanted to get my opinion out there of the games that I played this year, and I really enjoyed that. This was a fun project to make. That being said, 2025, I do want to get back into streaming. I don't know what game I'm going to come back to streaming with. I don't know when I'm going to start playing whatever game that is to come back to streaming with, but I'm planning on upgrading the PC. I want to get back into it. I want to get back to making fun little videos, whether they're short form or long form. I want to get back to making content for the internet. So I think it's a fun little passion project for me. That being said, if you liked what you saw, leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't like what you saw, be sure to comment and tell me why you didn't like it. I'm pretty sure a couple of my placements were not popular, but hey, they were my opinions. You can feel free to disagree. I'm just glad I was able to make this video and put it out there. But yeah, man, 2025, gonna try and get back into this. I have a lot of fun doing this. So yeah, I'll see y'all again in 2025. Hopefully 2025 will be a good year. I hope 2024 was a good year for all of you. Bye.